Welcome back to Hollywood Smoke in the city of Santa Monica. I'm Steve Kim for Michael Baca and Mike Montero, another segment of 10 Count. Gentlemen, George Allen once famously said the future is now, and I think the future of boxing is always in its prospects. Mr. Baca, give me a prospect right now that if you're an investor, you'd say, you know what, I want to buy stock in this blue chip.
Well, we saw him on Saturday night. He's fresh on our minds. He's Egidijus Kavaliauskas,
The mean machine.
He blew out Prentice Brewer in 2 rounds, a lethal right hand. Talking to PJ after the fight, he could not stop talking about his power. He said, you know, throughout 16 years I've been boxing, I've never felt anything like that. And he actually kind of had a Curtis Stevens moment on the first knockdown when Curtis Stevens got dropped by Golovkin, and he had that look of whoa.
Anyone come to your mind?
Well, there's a few guys. I mean, we talk about the heavyweight division, Joseph Parker, who's rough around the edges, but he's shown a really good chin. I've seen him take some shots, and he shows a good chin, and he punches hard. He's an exciting guy. Of course, Anthony Joshua. But one overall prospect that gets me excited as a potential crossover star is Jojo Diaz, because he just seems to have the whole package, right? You talk about the mean machine, he's a mean, powerful guy, but it's almost like Sergey Kovalev to a degree, where I don't know if the crossover appeals there. With Jojo Diaz, he's so polished. He's like a mini Oscar De La Hoya. From here in the SoCal area, for Los Angeles area, he's fought on a lot of those LA Fight Club cards, and he's built up a local fan base. Very articulate, good on camera. I definitely would buy into that as a blue chip prospect.
And Mike, late news here over the weekend, March 26th, Jojo Diaz will make his HBO debut against Jason Valdez in Oakland, California. And being part of the Belasco Fight Club announcing crew with Beto Duran and Doug Fisher, we see a lot of good prospects. Joet Gonzalez, kid by the name of Edgar Valerio, came out of nowhere. And I'm going to tell you something. He got slow pitch softball at the last fight. But like you said, he did what he was supposed to. He knocked it out of the park, and you said to yourself, where have you been?
Right, there's just something there.
Where is this hungry young go-getter been? Diego De La Hoya is also a developmental guy. I see a lot of guys on LA Fight Club where I say to myself, they're not the most highly touted guys because they don't have the Olympic background. But that's what a prospect is. You try to project 3 years out in front. Where will these young men be?
Right, and those LA Fight Club cards are where it's supposed to happen. That's the way it's supposed to happen. You match these guys often. You get them in the ring in those club-type scenarios with a passionate fan base. You start small, you build big. And it's just like Valerio, like you said, these guys that just come out of nowhere, that you didn't expect to become a potential, contender.
And Mike, I think we forgot about these guys because we've been talking about them to a point where I don't think we consider them prospects anymore, but that's what they are. Felix Verdejo, Oscar Valdez. Though sometimes it's the simplest answer that is the right one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Felix Verdejo has the potential to take over the Puerto Rican, the biggest Puerto Rican star since
Trinidad.
Trinidad.
He's Trinidad-esque.
I was going to say Cotto, but Trinidad is the higher ceiling.
Mike, I was with you at Studio City this past week, and Egidijus Kavaliauskas, the mean machine, he's 28 years old. He's from Lithuania, 12 fights, 12 wins, 11 knockouts. Let me tell you something. I think that kid, I'm just saying, I don't want to say the word Golovkin because he's from the former Soviet region. And I saw this with Manny Pacquiao about 5 years ago. Anytime a southpaw Filipino would come out, even if it's Marvin Sansana, everyone would say Pacquiao. And it became like this pressure, like no one could ever live up to it. It's like the 90s basketball. Any guard that was 6'6", next Magic Johnson.
But Penny Hardaway was supposed to be there.
Right, and those are very rare. But let me just say this about Kavaliauskas. He is from a system of Egidijus Klimas, who I believe is the straightest shooter in boxing out of all the managers. And when you fight for him, you're not doing Elizabeth Shue. There's no babysitting going on. They'll fight right off the bat.
There's no golden road. There's no Heyman-esque, protection. And the thing about the Mean Machine is he's not just a guy who goes out there and he's just a brawler. He knows how to box. He had an amateur career. He fought in 2 Olympics, 2008 and 2012 Olympics. He has more of a pro style, so he didn't medal. But he has that background. So there's some craft there too. It's not just a guy who's coming out there to kill you. And I like what I see with him too. I just think he needs to be on American television more so the fight fans will respond.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue in talking to Brad Goodman, the head matchmaker for Top Rank, I don't know how you're going to get opponents now. You're going to have to overpay guys just to get in there with them. But I'll say this, Mike, and I mentioned this on Twitter over the weekend. The Soviet Union fighters, or from young men from that region of the world, they're not like Cubans. They have every bit the amateur background, maybe better pro styles. But, Mike, they aren't seduced and made lazy by the American culture.
No,
they have a
not at all.
purpose to come here.
Not at all. All they want to do is fight.
Yeah.
You know, they don't. It doesn't seem like they have any interest in money. Of course, that's what they do this for a living for. But, you know, they do. There is a difference between those guys and the Cuban guys with the amateur pedigrees. Again, on Kavaliauskas, we say it again and again, these guys with God-given power, it's kind of separates them from everybody else. And it's early, but it looks like he has that God-given
And
power.
other prospects that come to mind, and again, way too much pressure, and I think it's completely unfair. And just because he's with TMT, I think Gervonta Davis is a good fighter. Hard-nosed little scrapper. But there's not going to be a lot of Mayweathers. That's just the fact. And he's a good little fighter.
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't want to make an Adrian Broner comparison here, because personality-wise, but Adrian Broner was supposed to be the mini Mayweather, right? Now, it's like you talked about, you know, in the 90s, every point guard was supposed to be Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Every guy who comes out with that style from that camp is going to be compared to Floyd, and there's only going to be one Floyd, you know? So the pressure sometimes, you know, I think people get a little ahead of themselves and they need to back up and let the guy develop and see what happens.
All right, so in 3 years, look back at this segment, and if we're wrong, just don't ever watch this segment again.
Yeah.
All right, so on behalf of Michael Montero, Michael Baca, this is Steve Kim saying goodbye for UCN Live.